What is the violation notice for?
A violation for leaving your trash can out for 12 minutes. Rules are rules.
Why is my car being towed? This is outrageous!
Ma'am, it's in violation. See the notice. But I had no warning.
Nobody warned Lena that buying a small townhouse in Willow Creek Estates came with an unspoken rule. Survive Karen first. Karen wasn't just the HOA president. She was the law. Clipboard in hand, smile sharp enough to cut glass, she patrolled the neighborhood like a prison warden. And Lena, single mom, night shift nurse, 2 kids, became her favorite target from day one. It started small, a violation for leaving her trash can out 12 minutes too long. Then a fine for her son's bicycle leaning against the fence. Then a warning letter for unauthorized curtains because they were the wrong shade of beige. Every week, a new envelope. Every envelope, a new fine. Lena tried to explain. She worked double shifts. She barely slept. She just wanted peace. Karen's response? Rules are rules. If you can't afford the community, maybe you don't belong in it. And the worst part? Karen made sure everyone heard it. At meetings, she'd publicly read out Lena's violations like a court sentence. Neighbors started whispering. Some avoided Lena. Others looked at her like she was the neighborhood problem. Then came the humiliation. One morning, Lena woke up to find a bright orange eviction warning sign taped to her door, completely fake but stamped with the HOA logo. Karen had posted it by mistake and still left it up for 3 hours. Long enough for the entire street to see. Long enough for Lena's kids to ask if they were going to be homeless. That night, Lena cried in her car after work. What she didn't know yet was that Karen had just made the biggest mistake of her life, because Lena wasn't planning to fight back. She was planning to end her. Karen didn't stop after the eviction stunt. She escalated. First, Lena's parking permit was mysteriously revoked, so her car got towed at 2 a.m. after a 12-hour hospital shift. The tow alone cost half her rent. Then Karen sent out a mass HOA email titled "Concern about a Resident's Lifestyle." No names, just enough details that everyone knew it was Lena. Excessive comings and goings at late hours. Children often unsupervised. Possible code violations inside the unit. Translation? Karen was painting her as a bad mother. Soon inspectors started showing up. Fire safety, noise complaints, even animal control, because someone reported a dangerous dog. Lena didn't even own a dog. At meetings, Karen smirked while reading the reports. Some people just don't understand standards. Lena stopped speaking up. She stopped defending herself. She just nodded, paid fines, and kept her head down. Karen thought she had finally broken her. What Karen didn't notice was that Lena had started recording everything. Every email, every fine, every time Karen accidentally insulted her on speaker. And the real twist? Lena wasn't collecting evidence for the HOA. She was collecting it for someone else, someone who specialized in predatory associations. Someone who loved cases where bullies got sloppy, because Karen didn't just harass Lena. She'd been skimming HOA funds for years, fake maintenance invoices, personal expenses labeled as community costs, and Lena had just walked straight into the perfect front row seat. Karen thought she was hunting a victim. In reality, she had been training her own executioner. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying this story, like, share, and subscribe. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We want to know how far this story travels. For weeks, Lena said nothing. No complaints, no emails, no arguments at meetings. Karen took the silence as surrender. She started getting bolder. She approved a special emergency budget without a vote, then another, then a third. All signed by her, all rushed through when most residents were at work. The community pool was supposedly under renovation. The landscaping contract was updated. Security cameras were replaced, but nothing actually changed, except Karen's lifestyle. New Lexus, designer handbags, luxury spa weekends she bragged about on Facebook. Meanwhile, residents were still paying higher fees for maintenance issues. And Lena? She was quietly forwarding everything. Bank statements one neighbor leaked, invoices that didn't match any real company, audio of Karen saying nobody ever checks the books anyway. The person helping Lena finally said the words she'd been waiting for. This isn't harassment anymore. This is criminal. So Lena did something unexpected. She ran for the HOA board. Not to win, just to get access. Karen laughed in her face. You? You can't even manage your own house. But Karen still had to follow the rules, which meant Lena now sat in meetings, had access to shared drives, and could legally request every financial record. Karen thought she had invited her enemy into the lion's den. What she didn't realize was that she had just handed the lion a microphone, a camera, and a direct line to the authorities, and the investigation was already underway. Karen was still playing bully. Lena had moved on to something else entirely. She was building a public downfall, one that couldn't be fined away. Karen's downfall didn't start with police. It started with an email. Subject line, HOA Financial Transparency Mandatory Community Meeting. Karen assumed it was routine, another boring meeting she could control. She walked in, confident, perfect hair, perfect smile, and walked straight into a trap. Lena was already there. So were three board members who had quietly turned on Karen, and sitting in the back, a forensic accountant, a city compliance officer, and a lawyer from a consumer protection agency. Karen's smile froze. Lena stood up for the first time in months, not shaking, not apologizing. She pressed play. Audio filled the room. Nobody checks the books anyway. Then screenshots of fake invoices. Then bank transfers going straight into Karen's personal account. The room went silent. Karen tried to laugh it off, out of context. Then the compliance officer stood up. Actually, it's all in context, and it's all documented. Handcuffs didn't come that night, but something worse did. The board voted on the spot. Karen was removed as HOA president, effective immediately. Her accounts were frozen the next morning. An investigation went public. Neighbors who once feared her started sharing their own stories. The bully lost her power, her reputation, her control. And Lena? She never sued. She never yelled. She never begged for revenge. She just watched Karen walk out of the same meeting room where she used to humiliate others. This time, with everyone watching. And that fake eviction sign? Lena framed it, hung it in her garage, a reminder that the woman who tried to make her homeless ended up evicted from her own throne. Final reminder, like, share, and subscribe if you believe karma always collects. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Because stories like this deserve to travel everywhere.